Welcome to Today in AZ on your Sunday morning. I'm Allison Rodriguez.
And I'm Emma Jade. So coming up, new year, new wage. Some Arizona workers can expect a pretty nice bump in pay as the minimum wage in our state goes up in 2026. So our David Chasanoff, he's got all the details you need to know.
And one of the best runners in the world lives right here in the Valley. He also works as a first responder. Where does he have the time? We'll introduce you to him and show you his journey to complete an ultra marathon.
And if you are making your own list of New Year's resolutions, we're actually speaking to an expert about some scientific strategies to help you see them through.
But first, here is a look at your weather impact forecast on your Sunday.
Good morning and welcome to Sunday. I'm meteorologist Chris Dunn with your 12 News weather impact forecast. Starting out this morning in the 50s, quickly rising into the 60s by noontime and 70s also in the offing, with some scattered high clouds, but not quite as cloudy as it was on your Saturday. Here are the forecast numbers across the state. Show Low, a mild 56, 48 in Flagstaff, also pretty mild considering it's early January. 49 at the Grand Canyon and 71 Lake Havasu City. There's a 72 in Phoenix. This weekend through Tuesday, more mild afternoons with above average highs in the 70s. The mornings will also be fairly mild for this time of the year. Typical lows are in the 40s. Will mostly be in the 50s, but prepare for a change. Turning cooler by midweek, feeling more like January. Also a slight chance of some rain showers. I'm tracking another weather system. I'll have that for you coming up with the 7-day forecast in just a few minutes.
If you work here in the Valley, January 1st means big changes for your paycheck, and this is such great news. Arizona's minimum wage, it is going up by about 45 cents in 2026.
Our David Chasanoff, he is live in Phoenix for us with what you need to know about this, because obviously people are like, what? I'm getting a raise? That's some good news. Yes. But how is Arizona looking compared to the national average, to the rest of the folks out there?
Emma and Justin, good morning. Arizona's minimum wage is now close to $8 higher than the national average of $7.25 per hour. So a big change there. We know it will help people bring home more money each week, and it will also help offset those rising living costs that we continue to see across the valley and really nationwide, right? So let's get into those changes and what they're all going to look like. So starting today, Arizona's minimum wage will increase from $14.70 to $15.15 per hour. For someone working full-time, that's an extra $18 to $20 per week in your paycheck, which can really add up quickly over the year. Arizona is one of 19 states making this change in January of 2026. But if you work in Flagstaff, city leaders made their own changes, which also go into effect today. The minimum wage there will rise to $18.35 per hour, which is roughly $3 more than the Arizona state minimum. Flagstaff city leaders are getting rid of what's called the tip credit, meaning all employees, whether they're tipped or not, must be paid the full minimum wage by their employer. This change ensures tip-dependent workers will see a more reliable paycheck, not just tips, which can really make a big difference in monthly budgets. Their city council plans to hear feedback from the community on how these changes will impact businesses. Also starting today, the state has increased their business personal property tax exemption to $500,000. We know this will help give small business owners a bit more room to cover costs and invest in their teams, which will help with the higher wages. In Phoenix, David Chasanoff, 12 News.
And we are talking about some big changes that could impact your wallet and your family's budget, right? So this morning we've got Stephen Connors in with Connors Wealth Management, just already talking about, some big changes that could be coming and how it is really going to impact people. So the reason we're bringing this up is that as we start to close in this old year, so old now, 12 months old, right? We have to really set ourselves up for next year, the best for success, right? So first, let's talk about something that's been in the headlines with us, health insurance premiums.
Yes.
Those are going to go up for a lot of people. I know my parents just got a mail in recently, a letter in the mail saying that their premiums are going to be going up as well. That's going to happen for so many.
Yes, unfortunately. So health insurers are raising their premiums approximately 18%. And then the enhanced tax credits will be phasing out now. So that will mean that for 24 million Americans, it can be a spike of up to 75%. Then you add in inflation and other things like that. There's also the weight loss drugs. Those costs have to be incurred by the health insurance companies.
Oh, interesting.
So for those of us that are paying our premiums, it's going to get more expensive and probably less in services in terms of healthcare services as well. So you
Yeah.
get less for more, unfortunately, when it comes to health insurance premiums.
Yeah.
And the employer-sponsored plans for health insurance, those premiums will increase for the employees.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised to see that this year.
For sure. So make sure you're checking, those benefit changes for the next year.
Yes.
I'm hearing it from my parents too, because they're dropping, a lot of doctors dropping out from their network, and the prices are going up, and so many Americans are going to be dealing with that as well.
Sure.
Sticking with health and healthcare costs, medical debt that had been removed from credit reports, it could be going back on. I mean, how's that going to impact us?
Well, the Consumer Protection Financial Bureau attempted to have it so that would be continued, okay?
Okay.
But unfortunately, as far as that goes, if you have medical debt, and it used to be if it was under $500, and that probably may not show up on a credit report. However, if you have medical debt, it looks as though the Trump administration is going to allow that to be added back onto your credit report. So what does that mean? It means lower credit scores, which can make it more difficult to borrow and things like that. So that's the thing to keep in mind, is if you have medical debt and you thought that it was going to be not added, unfortunately, that will show up again, most likely.
Yeah, for
Assume it will.
2026, right. I mean, if you had any house projects planned or any other reason you needed to take out a loan and you have that medical debt, just keep that in mind. Inflation, I mean, this is something we've talked about for the last year, 2 years.
Yep.
Shrinkflation as well, just everything, costing more, you're getting less. Seems like healthcare is on that trend too. But as far as inflation goes, is there any relief in sight? Do you see that going away next year?
Well, the Federal Reserve has kept interest rates high for longer, and inflation has come down. Last read last week was about 2.7%, but we're still closer to 3% than we are where the Fed target is, which is at 2%.
Yeah.
However, so the problem is that if you look back to prior to the pandemic, which really wasn't all that long ago, beginning March of 2020, from there to now, it's about 23% more expensive for items that we've purchased, and that's items and services both. So inflation is here. Even if it gradually gets back down to the 2%, we're not likely going to feel like inflation's coming down because it's that much higher than it was prior to the pandemic.
Sure. Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of people ended up maybe shrinking their contributions to retirement plans so they had more money in the budget because of inflation. Things were just costing more. And so if you do want to get back on track with your retirement accounts, there are some changes that we should know about.
Yes. In 2025, if you earned over $124,000, there'll be no more catch-up contributions for those that are 50 and older. So that's something to keep in mind. You can still put extra funds into retirement, but that would have to be on an after-tax basis. It's called Roth IRAs. And so it's after-tax dollars that go in, and it grows tax-free. So when you eventually pull those funds out, it's tax-free.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's kind of looking over their budget for this year, trying to plan for next year, saying, I want to be in a better financial spot at the end of 2026 than this year? What is your top tip for them?
My top tip is have a financial plan. Budget everything. Look at your expenses. Look at those expenditures line item by line item. Look at your cash flow and make sure that you are not only covering your expenses, but pay yourself also. So you are a creditor. Make sure that you're planning for your future and for retirement, because as New Year's approaches, these years go fast. And so you want to be putting money away every single month and year, because when you do retire, it's a lot more enjoyable if you don't have to have that worry of finances.
Yeah, I just think it's hard to do and think about that for yourself when you're paying all these other people, you know, when you've got your medical debt and your credit card debt and other debt. But that's why a budget is so important.
It is.
Stephen Connors, thank you so much for being
You're
here.
very welcome.
We really
Pleasure.
appreciate it. Emma, I feel like some really good takeaways today. Let's get to something pretty inspiring at 8:11 this morning, a story of endurance and perseverance right here in Arizona. That's George Cyrus. He's a Queen Creek firefighter who doesn't just run to stay in shape. He runs ultra marathons. If you're not familiar, ultra marathons are any race that's longer than the standard 26.2 miles, which is already unbelievable. But some of the toughest will go even to 100, sometimes 200 plus miles nonstop, but they take place over several days. This morning, our Troy Lynch has more on George's journey to completing an ultra marathon most people can't even imagine.
Some phrases the typical person doesn't say.
Like, I just want this thing to be miserable. I got this huge gash in my foot, like my foot, like basically trench foot. The only time I slept was when my wife and crew were like changing my shoes and socks. Right in the arch of my foot, split open at probably mile 40.
George Cyrus isn't your typical guy. At 36 years old, this Queen Creek firefighter likes to run distances over 200 miles long.
I strive on multi-day efforts that you have to be able to eat and move and run, and then sleep deprivation, which is like where I thrive.
All right, he must have been running his whole life.
I did not run until I was almost 30.
Okay, well then he must have a lot of free time. But he has a wife and 3 kids under the age of 10. Growing up in Queen Creek, George has a background in professional motocross racing and never would have thought he'd be running ultra marathons and be one of the best in the world at it.
My name is George Cyrus. This is the start of Moab 240.
George is more of a don't think, just do it kind of guy. He skipped regular marathons and started running ultras. The reason being, he wanted something harder than the 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb and tried the Mogollon Monster 100-mile race in Arizona.
Oh yeah, I finished. My feet were messed up. My nutrition was bad. It was bad all the way around. Like it tore me down.
So with that glowing review, George wanted to make it an annual thing and started training. But this year, there were 3 200-plus mile races that he signed up for, where he had a very unusual way to prepare.
There wasn't a lot of training going into these runs.
Before these races, George woke up every weekday at 3:30, ran for about an hour, and then that's all he did for months, because he had fire academy training all day and his kids' sports and family time on the weekend.
I think my longest run going into Tahoe this year was 12 miles. Wait, I looked at it as like, oh, I'm gonna be super fresh coming into this race. So I just made it as like, hey, I'm gonna work out 1 hour every day.
Here's how George did. He placed 16th at the Tahoe 200 in California, finishing in 73.5 hours, 8th in the Bigfoot 200 in Washington in just over 57 hours, and 3rd in the Moab 240 in Utah with a final time of 69 hours and 48 minutes. Add up everything. George ran 640 total miles in 8 days, 8 hours, and 29 minutes, which earned him 2nd overall in the ultramarathon Triple Crown.
I hadn't really raced 200. It was like, hey, I'm just gonna be in the pack and I would like to not get time cut.
Turns out, George only gets stronger and faster as the race goes on. How do you not get injured and your body's able to maintain this pace for this long?
I think so. It does get injured. So there's no way around not getting injured. I think the biggest thing is the taking care of yourself on the back end. Sleep, eat, diet, exercise.
The persistence of being consistent every day. When he can't run, he lifts. When he can't go heavy, he goes light. It's this mindset that helps him keep going. There's probably those inner thoughts telling you when it's really hard, like you can quit, you can stop.
Yeah.
What do you do when that happens?
Just keep moving. Don't make any decisions in an ultra marathon until you've eaten a whole meal and you've slept.
Some good advice for anyone, right? For anything. That was Troy Lynch reporting. Even after the Triple Crown, George had more races planned until he unfortunately was hit by a car while he was training. He needed shoulder and hand surgery. He is recovering now and then says he plans to race again this coming May. So he's got some time to rehab and then get back out there. We're wishing him the very best in his recovery.
Good morning once again. I'm 12 News meteorologist Chris Dunn with your weather impact forecast on this Sunday, 50s in the morning and a little bit of clearing. It's not going to be quite as cloudy as your Saturday afternoon was. Sun comes up 7:32 and it sets shortly after 5 o'clock. Through 1 p.m., 68 degrees. That puts us in the above average zone. Eventually, our high temps will top out around 70. Deer Valley and Scottsdale, 73 in Avondale and Levine and Goodyear. Down to the south, Maricopa, 71. And on the east side, right around 70 degrees. Typical for this early point in January, 66. That's our average high temperature. The coldest of the whole year is 65. So we're actually starting that long uphill climb. I don't know, 107. That's the hottest average high temperature of the year, and that's in July. We're pretty far away from that. We do have a snow drought in progress for Flagstaff. So far this year, 8.1 inches measured at the Flagstaff Airport. Normal season snowfall to date, 30.2. That's less than 30% of the average snowfall. And so far this season, Prescott, Payson, and Pine Top, the 3 Ps, no measurable snow so far this season. And Show Low only has about a ½ inch of measured snow. There will be a quick little system that clips northern Arizona through Monday. This is through Monday at 11 p.m. The snow forecast kind of bleak. The Kaibab Plateau, basically the north rim of the Grand Canyon, and also the San Francisco Peaks. Snow elevation about 7,000 feet and above, so that puts Flagstaff kind of right on that rain snow line yet once again. Here's the rain forecast for the next 3 days, and most of it ending up in California, and of course high elevation snow for the Sierra Nevada and a little bit of precip across northern Arizona the next 3 days. But then we're tracking a weather system that will come in on late Tuesday into Wednesday. But some subtle changes are starting to happen with this. Here's Monday's system moving out of northern Arizona. Lots of clouds for your Tuesday. Kind of cloudy again on Wednesday. But look, this system taking the low road way down here to the south. If it does end up being that far to the south, probably a little too far south for us to get any rain out of it. There are other projections that are showing this a little bit closer to us, bringing in a swath of rain Tuesday night into Wednesday. So we'll continue to track that for you and bring you the latest on the air, online, and here on 12 Plus. 48 in Flagstaff today, 72 in Phoenix. I'll get out of the way of Show Low, 56 degrees with scattered clouds around. Your Flagstaff 7-day forecast. A little bit of rain and snow possible on Monday. 42, no accumulation here. A little bit better chance getting into Thursday with some snow and definitely a cooler change. 38 your high on Thursday, only 36 on Friday with lows in the teens. Valley 7-day forecast, 72 on your Sunday, upper 60s into early next week, and just a 20% chance of some Wednesday rain showers.
Lots of traffic impacts coming up in 2026 that you need to know about. We know ADOT is working on several projects along the Loop 101, 202, and the 303. It's endless, right? We got our David Chazanoff. He's joining us now live. This is right near the I-10 and Loop 101, which is a spot I'm sure you're familiar with. It always gets bogged down here. So, David, what do drivers need to know about some progress that's going to be made there, and how long is it going to take?
Emma, good morning. ADOT says this spring they're going to be working on expanding this interchange here in the West Valley. But across the valley, we also know that crews are working on the Loop 303. So let's break that down for you here. ADOT wants to improve freeways in North Phoenix and Peoria. One of the projects is on the I-17 and 303 near the TSMC campus. Construction crews are working in that area to add lanes and make the area more accessible. Now, ADOT says it will eventually put in direct freeway to freeway ramps connecting the I-17 and the 303. The follow-up project to that will be between 51st Avenue to Lake Pleasant Parkway. ADOT says they'll build new lanes there for the Loop 303, and we also know ADOT is working to improve the Loop 303 from Van Buren Street to MC 85. Obviously, throughout the morning, we've been talking about the 101, the 202, and 303. A lot to keep an eye on, right? So coming up at 8, I'll give you a full breakdown of what you can expect and where. In Phoenix, David Chazanoff, 12 News, today in AZ.
My gosh, as we head into the new year, this is another reason why we could never live anywhere else. One of Arizona's most iconic landmarks, I would argue the country's, the world's most iconic landmarks, taking center stage in a really stunning new way. The January issue of Arizona Highways dedicated entirely to our Grand Canyon, captured through every season from sunrise to sunset, even under the night sky, which honestly, if you're a stargazer, that's a place you really want to go to. So joining us this morning is Arizona Highways Editor-in-Chief, Robert. We appreciate you coming back. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too.
Well, I love that you guys are dedicating this to the Grand Canyon because it is so incredible. I mean, I've seen pictures of it growing up, and then getting to see it in person was something that took my breath away. I wish everyone could experience that.
Yeah, and you know, the neat thing about the canyon is it doesn't matter if you've seen it once or 1,000 times. It feels different every time you go. And you go up, you know, watching the weather forecast there, you know, around the country, you know, they are getting snow. Well, we can get that at the canyon too. And I actually think January is one of my favorite times to be at the canyon.
You know what, you and I have talked about that, because I always say I love to be there in the morning, the sunrise, even though it can get pretty cold.
Yes.
But in the summer, that's kind of a nice little change of pace, and I love the sunrise. And then you said you like the snow look on the Grand Canyon, which I think you're nuts. It's just too cold for me. But it's so fitting. It's a January issue here. Why did you guys want to start it off with this?
Well, you know, we like to kick off the year with something really big, and it doesn't get much bigger than the Grand Canyon. But, you know, as an editor, it's sort of a cheat, really. I'm cheating because it's like if you've got Randy Johnson in your bullpen, you're going to put him out there as often as you can. So the Grand Canyon is an easy choice for us. And as you pointed out, I mean, it's a place that's recognized around the world.
Yeah.
And no matter how many times we publish photographs of the canyon, people still are going, ooh, ah. And there's always new stories to tell, too.
You're right. And this is a good point to see. You know, there was some fog there, some clouds, there's some sunny days, there's some snowy times, there's some rainy times. Like, it sees everything. And depending on when you go, you have your own unique experience at looking at it. The Grand Canyon can be so different in all of these different situations.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, you know, and even during the course of the day with the light, it changes,
So true.
and you get the clouds that move in there. Again, if you're going up there this time of year, I mean, there can be some snow. So you have to sort of check the forecast. Some roads do close up there, but one of the really nice things is you don't have those big summer crowds when the kids are out of school.
Yeah.
You've got a little bit more
So true.
peace and quiet up there this time of year. It's still busy because it's the Grand Canyon, but the snow adds a nice layer.
You want to know something, Robert, that I thought was so interesting? The times that I've been to the Grand Canyon and I just listened to people who are out there, these are people from all over the world. I would say most people, I didn't hear a lot of English. A lot of people were from around the world. This is their bucket list. This is the item that they save up throughout the year to come to the country and see and spend money in, you know, in our community, in our state. So it's such a huge economic driver as well. We're so lucky to have it. And so in that way, it does make sense. And there's so much to do other than just stand there and gaze at it.
Well, there's museums up there. You can learn about geology, things that you think would not be that interesting, but then when you listen to the rangers talk about it, it can be very fascinating. And one of the great things about it is it's sort of an equalizer. It doesn't matter what your portfolio looks like, doesn't matter where you're from or who you are. You know, we all are brought down to this very small level of what a speck we are when you look out there, and we all have the same kind of reaction. I a few years ago was standing out there with one of the richest men in the world, literally, and he was out there by himself, and we were just standing there having the same exact, you know, experience watching the sunset on the Grand Canyon, and it's a spectacular place. We're lucky to have it.
I know, absolutely. And you're so right. How small you feel in its wonder is just the most fantastic place. And sometimes I meet Arizonans born and raised who have never been, and I just tell them, like, you have got to go. It is the most amazing place. And so I know you love it. You love all things Arizona, as we know. And so if people at home maybe are thinking, okay, I want this magazine, I want to get this issue, I want to see Arizona and the Grand Canyon in all its glory, how can they do that?
Well, it's on newsstands everywhere. Also, you can fill out a subscription, go to our website, go about it that way. And, you know, the canyon is focused in this issue, but we'll certainly touch on it throughout the year. And it's just one of so many places in Arizona that are worth seeing.
So many that our Arizona highways take us to. So thank you so much for being here.
you.
I'm so excited to see what your February issue looks like. Please come back.
Thank you
We'll
so
talk about
much.
it then. Yes.
If you're anything like millions of other Americans, you may have set some goals to accomplish this year. But as we all know, making resolutions is far easier than following through with them. So psychiatrist Dr. Brooke Choulet joins us today to discuss some proven strategies that really help us work. Listen, I set some resolutions, but I thought I'll start next week. I'll start next week. How can we stick to these goals? What do we need to do? What do we need to keep in mind?
Yeah, so resolutions are good,
Yeah.
but motivation only gets us so far, right? And so it's much better to have systems in place than motivation alone.
Okay, I
And
like
so,
that.
Yeah, think about it. Like you come to work, you have a routine, you do things in a certain order.
Right.
And so when we can start to think about goal setting in that way and really follow our values, then we're able to really follow through with our resolutions and make them long-term goals.
I love that idea. So how, if I have a goal of, I don't know, for me, it's like, it sounds silly, but it's getting more sleep or it's drinking more water. How do I break that down in a way that I can make it a habit, not a unattainable goal?
Right. So the one thing, like you said, is it has to be attainable. So
Okay.
we're setting ourselves up for failure if we're saying, okay, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in January. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Right. So habit stacking is really where we need to start, where we're attaching things we want to do to something we're already doing.
Oh, how does that work? I love
So
that.
the water, that's a perfect example. So
Okay.
let's talk about that. So you wake up in the morning, you might grab a cup of coffee first, and that's something you always do every day.
Yes.
So with habit stacking, we're attaching something we want to do with something we're already doing. So for your cup of water, perhaps after you have your cup of coffee, every day you're attaching it to having a cup of water too.
I love that idea. Okay, another thought here is like I want to try and walk more. That's something that I don't do already. What can I attach that to make that happen?
Well, a lot of times it feels like that will take a long time, right? Like, oh, I don't have 20 minutes to go take a walk.
Yes.
But what if you just walked outside to your mailbox and back? So we have to set ourselves up for success. So even if we can purely just get outside for 2 minutes and come back home, that's still adding your goal onto what you're doing every day in a way that is sustainable.
We have these big goals because we think it's a year. It's 365 days, so that's a lot, right? So we set this really massive goal. But you have the idea of shrinking the goal. What does that look like?
Yeah, so just like we kind of talked about, right? Instead of saying I'm going to work out for an hour 5 times a week.
Yes.
Maybe it's just I'm going to move for 10 minutes a day.
Okay.
Right? Making it sustainable because setbacks will happen. And a lot of times people are like, oh, well, that's it. Maybe in 2027 things will get better.
Every time I feel like
Right.
that way, it's like, well, I didn't do it and it's, February, so I can't do it. But we shouldn't think that way. So when it comes to the setback, how do I coach myself?
Yeah, think about really like what you value and how you identify yourself. Because motivation only goes so far, right? If we're like, oh, I'm super motivated at the beginning of the year to walk more, that's great, but what actually aligns with your own values? So if you frame it as, I just want to be healthy, then you're not having a setback every day when you maybe do 10 minutes of yoga with your kids crawling all over you rather than getting out to the gym for an hour. So being kind to yourself and expecting setbacks is key.
And let's talk about those setbacks because typically it's like the first couple of months of the year, we're doing great in January, but then February, it tails off March, it just kind of doesn't really work. What can I do? What can I do to get myself back into gear and to be like, you know what? The goal doesn't have to end in March.
Well, I'm laughing because months would be great, right? But a lot of times
It's
it's
days.
like week 2 and people are like, oh yeah, we'll call it quits.
Totally.
So for people, they can really just start to check in with themselves monthly. That's what
Okay.
I like to do is like
Love
schedule a 15-minute meeting, check in with yourself, and maybe you want to pivot your goal. Maybe it's a reminder to re-implement the habit stacking. But whatever you do, don't get down on yourself. Keep going.
Dr. Chalet, thank you so much. Motivational, and just to be realistic with our goals. Okay, good luck, everyone.
Meteorologist Chris Dunn here with a final look at your forecast on this Sunday. Warming up into the low 70s in the valley with scattered high clouds, but a lot more sun than we had on your Saturday. Here's the high-res close-in look at our futurecast. And again, some of those clouds, high clouds from time to time, dotting the sky. Your high temperatures across the valley, basically right around 70 degrees, 72 in the comfort zone in Phoenix. Here's your 7-day forecast for the valley. Just a small 20% chance of some Wednesday showers, but turning cooler by the end of the week.
Thank you for joining us this Sunday morning. And remember to start your week and every morning with Today in AZ.
Yes, we start at 4:26 a.m. and we now stream until 9 on 12+. Your mornings don't stop.
And now neither do we. Welcome to Today in AZ. 12 News Today in AZ keeps going.
Expanding to 9 a.m. on the 12+ streaming app.
More live weather.
More live traffic updates.
More breaking news. Live from 4:26 a.m. to 9.
12 News Today in AZ, now streaming until 9 a.m. on 12+.
Download on your TV and watch for free.